and welcome to R&R, where bad media from the past needs a beating. Now this time, I'm actually looking at a spin-off title that was intended to spawn its own separate series, but failed to. And it was basically on the most iconic games at the time, Mortal Kombat. Now, you're probably wondering why a 10 and 11-year-old me would actually rent a video game based off of a very violent franchise that was pretty much responsible for the ESRB system we have right now. I was one of those who was permitted to play all sorts of games when I was young. And so, since it reminded me a lot of among my favorite games at the time, I might as well give this a shot. I can't believe what I've gotten myself into! Oh my god, it's you! Round 1, fight! You are not making me play this game! Alright.
Start out in the Shaolin Temple because Kung Fu fighting. And here you will actually see the 2D digitized character sprites in a fully rendered 3D background. Now, judging by the footage, it's just as awkward and confusing as you think it is. But we'll get to that in a minute. At first it plays like an actual Mortal Kombat game until you beat Scorpion. And then he runs off saying this taunt.
You will fail.
And here is where we run into the biggest problem of the game, the controls and the hit detections. Now, to start off, in order to basically turn around to face your opponent, you have to press the A button.
Well, how am I supposed to do it if all the controls are broken? You have to press up.
And since this is a platforming game, you'd think that would be a jump button, but nope, you press up just like you would in any other fighting game. The problem is that when you're platforming, it actually wears down your thumb real fast and it can get you killed, especially in a confusing mess like this!
At first this seems awkward, except there's too many enemies held up against you and there's too many instant death traps!
Yes, there are a bunch of instant death traps. And it's very easy to get yourself caught in them, especially if you're fighting off enemies one by one, or if there's a time limit and you have to beat them as soon as possible. And many of these obstacles don't really follow any particular pattern. A lot of times it's based on just sheer luck. And they're placed everywhere. And it's not just in this level, it's the entire game. Now, if you make it to the end of the stage, here's where you'll find something interesting.
Now, I actually played the N64 growing up, and most of the, and of course all I got was basically the slideshows, but the original PlayStation version I'm going to be showing to you because these have live-action full-motion video! Now, everyone loves those, don't they?
I see the ninja has been successful in retrieving my map, as I have foreseen.
Let's get something straight. I am not a ninja. I am Lin Kuei. Scorpion was a ninja.
Because all ninjas are evil, and I am not evil. So it turns out that Sub-Zero actually has to find medallions representing the 4 elements. How original. So your first temple you have to go through is the Wind Shrine. You'd think, why would the wind level be placed at the very beginning of the game when it's so damn fucking difficult?
Wouldn't it actually be more logical to put the wind level at the end of the game with controls this terrible? Otherwise, fix your fucking game!
Because it's littered with instant death traps where you can easily fall to your death, including collapsible platforms that you only have a few seconds to jump from. Get ready for this because you're gonna hear this sound a lot. I hate these fucking windmills and these spoons. You actually have to time it perfectly, and how are you supposed to time it when your jumping is so off-key with the awkward controls? And if you were playing on the PS1 version, you'd have a full motion video of Sub-Zero wiggling his ass around in front of a green screen with various backdrops, depending on the level in which you died in. After all that controller bashing trouble, you finally make it to the first boss, who is a gay superhero wannabe. I mean, just look at this fucker. He has a tablecloth used for a cape with spandex worn outside of the leotard. And this guy's awful to hit because he flies around all over the place.
Am I? Wanna play with me, tiny whiny toys? You have some fancy toys. I have toys too. I can fly! You can't! Naughty, naughty, boo-boo!
After you finally beat him, he finally turns into a tornado and kills you instantly. What the fuck is going on? It turns out you're supposed to run away as far as possible and continue running, or you're supposed to duck to the ledge.
And why don't you just give people a hint that they're supposed to grab onto the ledge when he explodes into a tornado?
And so then you make it to the Earth level, and you think that this would be easier since you're on solid ground. Hell no! There's even more instant death traps! Because you would fall to your death, be crushed by a falling platform that you never knew what was coming, fall in a spiked pit, or be chopped in half, or crushed by these fucking springs that are littered all over the place. Motherfucker! Oh, come on, I just made it past this trap! Ugh! This is where a Game Shark comes in handy. As you notice, many of the instant death pits where you impale yourself on look exactly like all the other pits, and add to the confusion that there's also stalagmites hovering around the foreground that look exactly the same. But before you make it to the boss's stage, you find this asshole levitating and shooting lightning bolts at you, who's also very difficult to kill. Then you run to the Rock Titan, which surprisingly has a 3D model while Sub-Zero doesn't. And because he's made of stone, when you hit him, his health goes down slower than the minute hand on a clock. So what you're supposed to do is basically get him underneath a chained up platform, pull a switch, and drop it on him. But the problem is finding out where the platform is and knowing if he's under it and hoping that the fucker doesn't move away. I only managed to get him once after missing him several more times. Well, I'm gonna have to do this the hard way though. I have infinite lives, so your only hope is punching this guy in the nuts until he drops dead. Okay, to make this game short, the other levels after this all suck, especially the water level, because for one, Sub-Zero cannot swim, and no, you cannot freeze the water to get across platforms. And the boss is a transparent water dude that looks almost like Morph from Ocarina of Time if he took on the form of a human. At least he does this jiggling in your pants dance when you beat him. And if I haven't mentioned it already, the AI is god-awful. Like, most of the time, enemies will basically charge at you blindly, or they'll just stand there like a bunch of retards wondering if you're friend or foe. Just stay there doing nothing, and sometimes they'll get caught in a death trap. Now, many of them will become really cheap kills when you progress through the game and gain new abilities. As I said before, this also has RPG elements like leveling up, where you can learn Sub-Zero's signature moves further through the game. Which really comes to use in the fire level, where all the enemies are fire-based and you can easily weaken them. If it weren't for the continuing death traps that I also forgot to mention, the camera cannot keep up with the obstacles, so a lot of times you can't see where you're going, and you fall to your death, surprisingly. Which made the fire level boss super easy. I mean, he's just this goofy sombrero dude, hopping around mumbling pretty strange gibberish when he attacks. After you beat him, you try to get the fire amulet, but unfortunately, Quan Chi beats him to it and steals the amulet. And then Sub-Zero gets trapped in a prison by some other dude in robes, and that's supposed to be Shinnok. Yep, he actually makes his first appearance here. Then after you make your way out of the prison very easily, you then have to basically escape your way out of more cheap death traps and mundane boss battles that basically cheat. A few of the new characters you do fight, including a demon named Serena, and of course Quan Chi himself, which looks like he's really dressed up for that Gwar concert coming up. Yeah, you beat him, and then you make it to Shinnok, who leans forward like Emperor Palpatine if you were hovering around in droves. That is until he transforms into a giant demon the same way as the Rock Titan, and you're not supposed to fight him because it's suicide. You just run out and ta-da! The game, you just beat the impossible game!
Now, with most games that I played on the N64 were basically rentals before buying them, not just because we might get a turd in the cartridge, but N64 cartridges back then were really expensive. And so we just didn't want to be ripped off easily, and so a lot of times we just rented them at first. And this is one of the games I rented and actually had to spend my whole weekend playing. Don't you dare call me a reject combatant. Oh, that's it! I've had it with your shitty games. Finish her.
Fatality.
Thanks for watching. I really hope you liked this video. If you want to check out more from Mario Nama, please hit the subscribe button below, or go to my website at www.mariomedia.com. And if you really like the content, be sure to support me on Patreon or follow me on Twitch TV. And as always, sign on.